You are dedicated and devoted to a life of developing new ideas and innovations, willing to take calculated career risks, achieving independent wealth and success. Then you are ready to experience the entrepreneur effect. We'll highlight opportunities for entrepreneurs in digital marketing through interesting, practical, and thought-provoking interviews and monologues. Increase your income and be your own boss by listening to The Entrepreneur Effect. Please welcome your host, a 25-year veteran in sales, management, and business development, Dush Ramachandran.
Hi, and welcome to Entrepreneur Effect. This is Dush Ramachandran, and my guest today is Sheila Mac, who is the author of the new book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps. Welcome, Sheila.
Hi, thanks for having me on the show today.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for making the time to be on the show. The book is really fascinating, and there's a couple of very interesting points that you make in the book. But before we dive into that, let's start with a little bit of background. How did you come to write the book? Is that a book that's been sort of screaming to get out of you, or has this been as a result of people that you work with saying, "Hey, why don't you please write a book"? What was the motivation to write this book?
You know, the motivation actually, right now we're having California fires. And my motivation was back in 2017, I lost my home to a California fire. It was the Ventura fire. And so when that happened, I got back on track rather quickly. I mean, within 4 days, I had lost my home, all my possessions that were in the home. My cat got eaten by a coyote because she ran out. And one of my 6 children, one of my sons, crashed my car. So I was in a really difficult space, and I thought, okay, I have a choice. And I did some different things that worked, and I thought, wow, my neighbors are still complaining, and I've already been guided to move to a new home in Beverly Hills. I had a new offer for some of the online courses I teach in real estate. And so I went over to Beverly Hills, and I thought, okay, this was such an easy move. And it was within a month that I had gone back to this little, I had this little prefab cabin house, like a mobile home up in the Topanga Canyon area that I had made into Airbnb. And I rented those all out. And I had the little 400 square foot shed area kind of, it had running water and a little bathroom, half bath. But that's where I stayed until I transferred over to Beverly Hills after I had lost my beautiful home in Ventura. And so it was really interesting. I went back to collect my belongings, and I thought, wow, I don't like the fact that so many people are alone. They're stuck, still complaining and going through the process. And if I could reach out to somebody else that was in my shoes, what would I need to tell them to help them get back on track? A lot of people lost their businesses as well as their homes. And so that's why I created the Boots formula and the book.
Wow. That is quite the story. My God. Anybody listening to this would think, imagine it's bad enough to, have to evacuate when the fires come. I've been evacuated from my home twice during the fires in Colorado several years ago. And it's never fun. I mean, just having to evacuate is in itself stressful. You take your pets and you take everything with you, and you leave. Not knowing whether your house is going to be there when you get back, or if you're ever going to be able to get back into your home. But you went through something that is far more traumatic. Not only did you have to evacuate, you lost your home, you lost your beloved cat, and your son crashed your car. My God, what a trifecta of misfortune. But congratulations, kudos to you for having bounced back and very quickly found your feet. And as you say, just in 4 days you moved to Beverly Hills. That's amazing. So to what do you attribute that resilience, that ability to quickly bounce back?
I'm going to go way back to when I was a little girl. My parents weren't able to care for me. They had health issues. And I went from one grandparent's home to the other, back and forth. And one of my grandmothers, she was a businesswoman. She was very feminine, yet she ran a clothing manufacturing company. And she made swimsuits and bras. So that's where the bra came from in the book.
Nice.
and and anyway, when I stayed at her home, she had all her friends in her age group, probably 70s, 80s back then, because she lived to be 103. And they would all come over and have tea, coffee and tea together. And the little girls sitting there, children should be seen and not heard, but I was listening. And these people had these incredible stories, these ladies, of how they escaped oppression in another country, and they came to this country with nothing, or they had to start over, they lost loved ones, what they went through in their lives. I mean, my grandmother experienced the Spanish flu when she was a young girl. She was born in 1908, and she experienced the Great Depression. And so a lot of these people, these ladies, showed me how to be strong and resilient, and that the reality is, in our lifetime, we're going to have these waves. We're going to have ups and downs, things that are out of our control, like a fire, like our pandemic, universal pause this year. These things are not in our control, but we have the ability to control how we react and the outcomes that we create. So that was
Absolutely.
it. Yes.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because exactly as you say, things that happen around you, you have very little control over. I mean, whatever semblance of control you think you have, that's completely illusory, because things happen that you have absolutely no control over. And the minute you think you have control, the universe turns around and shows you that you really don't. Um,
Right.
but what you do have control over, as you say so wisely, is the fact that you have control over how you react to what happens around you, and that is a great lesson. So, um, so let's go to the title of the book. So, bra straps and bootstraps. So, give us the connection between those two seemingly unrelated things.
Well, the saying that grandma used to always say was pull yourselves up by your bootstraps. And it's a very popular older saying
Yep.
that's getting back on track. And then, it usually tends to have people think of a man pulling up his bootstraps. Back in the day, it really was about a guy, being in charge and all that. But I said, well, you know what? I want to include everyone, and let's do bra straps in memory of my grandmother, also because of her bra and swimsuit manufacturing company, and make it kind of fun. And although the content in the book is very deep, there's lots of activities to help people getting through tough times to get back on track using the Boots formula. And then there's activities you can do at the end of each chapter and free gifts to help you to design your life and reboot on your terms. So it's not really me telling somebody what to do. It's here's a guide so that you can slowly start rebuilding after you've been hit with who knows what, a fire, COVID, whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, that is tremendous. So, we'll talk about the Boots formula in just one second. When I read through that formula, it made so much sense, because it's so simple. I mean, you would think that a formula that would set your life back on track after being upended over some sort of catastrophe, you would think would be complex. You would do this, do that, and a whole bunch of different things. But as it turns out, it's a very, very simple concept. We'll get to that in one second. But now, when you started writing the book, how did you go about it? Did you interview a lot of people, or did you mostly reach back into your own experience and your life experience, and kind of put that down on paper? How did you approach it?
Well, I did a little bit of both. I've been working for many years in the consulting industry. I do lead online courses for real estate, but I also do a lot of consulting work with businesses as well as with individuals, relationship issues, this and that. And so I was able to share stories from different people of how just changing the perspective can make such a difference. And I thought about, okay, I need a community. So I do have a Facebook community that's free as well, so that people like that community of ladies, and it's men are welcome also. In fact, 50% of the people that read the book and are in the community are men. But we need each other more than ever, especially now that a lot of us have to still be distanced to a certain effect. So I wanted that component in there because there's something about when you're going through something, you don't want to burden your kids, you don't want to burden your family, your spouse, whoever. But if you just have an ear or someone that can say, "Hey, I got through this too and you can do it." It gives you hope and inspiration. And then with the book, I created activities and actionable steps that a person or somebody that's running a business could go ahead and use to get back on track quickly.
Wonderful. And we'll dive more into that. But let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Sheila Mac. Stick around. Please don't go away.
Stay tuned for more of the Entrepreneur Effect when we return.
Ready to do a podcast for your business? Make that podcast elevate to enterprise level. Let webmasterradio.fm expedite and execute your podcast to build your brand and broaden your customer base. Webmasterradio.fm has worked with the world's biggest tech brands, Google, Yahoo, and Bing, and have worked with fast-growing brands like ShipStation and GoDaddy. Now it's your turn. Contact BRASCO at WMR.fm and rush your enterprise-level podcast into production at a very reasonable rate. Email BRASCO at WMR.fm.
Are you looking for the best in WordPress speed, security, and scalability? WP Engine is a digital experience platform for WordPress, powering digital experiences for large brands around the world. With easy-to-use site management tools and powerful do-it-your-way development features, WP Engine gives you the flexibility to build it your way. Improve your SEO and conversion rates with a faster site on WP Engine. Learn more on WPEngine.com.
You are experiencing the Entrepreneur Effect, only on webmasterradio.fm. Here's Dush Ramachandran.
Welcome back. This is Dush Ramachandran with Entrepreneur Effect. And my guest today is Sheila Mac, who is the author of the new book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps. So Sheila, before the break, we were talking about how you came to be writing the book and what your inspiration was and how you got through an incredibly difficult time in your life. But the thing that sticks in my mind about the book is the Boots formula, which is a very simple, beautiful formula that you put together that people can use to get back on track, as you did, after anything that may have beaten them down. It might have been the pandemic, it might have been the fires, it could have been personal loss of some kind. But whatever it is, you have the beautiful Boots formula. So walk us through that, if you would. What is the Boots formula and how do you apply it?
Okay, so the B in the Boots formula is for being, and that's in all that I'm doing. It's who I'm being, and how I show up during a certain situation has to be a little bit different than who I was showing up as probably before. When you think about our 2020 goals and then March hit and things shifted, we had to change how we're being in business and how we're approaching things. A lot of us went online, we did different things. School, our children became homeschooled. Our elders may have had to go home to stay and be cared for. So we had to change who we were being in order to get a new result and outcome that we desired. Then there's the first O, O in the Boots formula is for orientation. So that's now going back to the fire situation. I had to sit down and do some orientation, say, this is where I'm at now. Now I'm in this shed at one of my rental properties here, and I've lost my home and all my things. What am I going to do next? And I had to be really honest about, my assets and my liabilities, and when is insurance going to come through, if at all, and what's that going to leave me with? Because you pay things off and you get zero. Is
Yeah.
you get clean. You don't have a debt over your head, but you start over. And so I had to be really honest about that in order to be honest about the results that I would be able to achieve and my new goals based on the reality that I'm in. Then the next O is for order of operations. So that's kind of like, obviously I couldn't move to Beverly Hills until I talked to some people and got invited into a beautiful real estate company there to help out and work with the team. And I had to actually rent a place with a friend for a few months, a very nice coworker there that I knew, that was also a friend for many years, until I was able to get really, get back on my feet enough, make some sales and do some things to actually go get my own place in town. And so these are steps that you take. You're not going to go from a rock bottom to, everything's perfect in a day. It is going to take time. So that's the order in which you do things can make all the difference. And the next thing, the next letter is T for thinking, and that's the mindset. That was me getting on the rebounder at this rental place. I mean, the mindset of, I took a mobile home up in a canyon that I bought for pennies, and I made it into a vacation rental. I had 3 units out of this one little double wide mobile home, and I was making 8,000 a month. I mean, it was great, but people were repeat visitors, and I was a super host, and it was a mobile home. Now that's thinking, that's mindset. That's like, how do you create your environment? It doesn't matter where you are. Make it beautiful, make it nice. If you have to shift your workplace, you're thinking as a business leader, how you show up, whether you're online now, whether you've had to, downsize a little or make some adjustments, how you show up is going to affect your employees as well as your customers, or your clients, because the employees are the ones working with your clients. And so that energy needs to come from the business leader. And if you're working in a job as a coworker, how you show up is also going to make all the difference. So that's the thinking. And then the last piece is stepping up, and that's being willing to take risks, being willing to move to a different place that you didn't expect, being willing to, say yes, knock on the door for new opportunities, and say yes when you're given the chance, and not, be stuck in fear. So that's being willing to step up. And that's the Boots
Wonderful.
formula.
That is a wonderful formula. Now, the other interesting point you make in the book is about affirmations, how saying affirmations out loud rewires your brain. It's neurochemistry. It's very simple. But a lot of people would think, well, that's kind of hokey. I'm not going to stand in front of a mirror, like the old Stuart Smalley skit on Saturday Night Live all those many years ago, where he would say things like, I'm good and I'm intelligent and God darn it, people like me. And that was kind of a funny skit, and people kind of made fun of it. But affirmations really work. So tell us about affirmations and why you think they're important. And I absolutely agree with you, but I'd love for our listeners to get the straight scoop from you.
So, like some of my affirmations, I'm brilliant, I'm bright, I'm a radiant being of light, I'm a lifetime learner, I'm a wisdom earner. These are just like fun sayings that you can bring up whenever you're stuck in something. You make a mistake, you get a learning in, and instead of calling it a mistake, you correct yourself and stay learning. And that, there's so many scientific studies related to affirmations, and it's really training our brains to go to a more positive place, and that brings up our energy, and people feel it. I mean, if you've ever been at work, and somebody walks in with the negative energy, it can ruin it for the entire team, because it's kind of draining. But if someone comes in and they have positive energy, it brings everybody else up. So that's something that we all kind of feel, and you might not even know the person, but you can just look at everybody else in the room and you're like, whoa, that person over there just walked in, something's not right. And
Right.
so that's the affirmations. Now, my book was originally going to come out in January, and I put it on hold until this August 4th. And the reason I did that was because in December, my youngest son, I have 6 children. I adopted 3 are mine. And my youngest son, my birth son, he passed away. He had a very slight heart condition. They said, don't worry about it. They did an ablation when he was very young, and he went to sleep and didn't wake up.
I'm
And
so
so,
sorry.
yeah, and it was very hard, and I had to make the choice. He was very proud of the book. He wanted, that's going to help a lot of people. That's really cool, Mom. Kids. He was 22, and sometimes you have to step back and do the healing. But I remember going through that, and if anybody's going through grieving, even if it's grieving the loss of a job, grieving the loss of somebody that's passed away due to this virus, or grieving the loss of a home, there's different stages of grieving. And one of the things that we tend to do, whether you had an auto accident, or something happens that's kind of a tragic event, our minds will automatically go there. We will go to the negative because we're trying to protect ourselves from it happening again. And so we will wake up and there it is. And we can picture the whole story. And so that was really important. We worked on gratitude and the affirmations with my grown kids, and how to kind of not go to the negative, but remember the positive memories. And it really, really helped, because you don't get stuck. And you see people that maybe they had a divorce or they lost a loved one 25 years ago, and you talk to them today and they never left. They
Yeah.
got stuck. And you love them dearly, but you're like, I've heard that story. Every time they tell that story and they're stuck in that really sad moment, they're reliving it physically, mentally. I mean, it's like they're there again. you know
Yeah.
and so the affirmations just help us to remind ourselves, let's affirm, that was a beautiful life, and we're so grateful for the gift. He started being sick in 5th grade. We had him until he was 22. He was in school, working, had a beautiful girlfriend for 4 years. So look at the beautiful memories. And yes, they're still grieving, and it's a process, but it really, it took the edge off. So retraining the brain and using affirmations to stay in a better place really makes a difference.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Sheila Mac. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned for more of the Entrepreneur Effect when we return.
Here's the truth you need to know about podcasting. The biggest problem you face right now as a future podcaster is the myth that it takes an enormous amount of time or effort to produce a high-quality professional podcast. Luckily for you, there's a solution to your problem. If you're an online marketer who really needs to grow an audience of buyers but can't do all the heavy lifting alone, then here's the solution you're looking for. Introducing the DFY podcasting system. Here's what you get: 30 minutes of one-on-one training, a weekly podcast for you or your company, distribution to almost every podcast portal, an embeddable player for your website, an ebook called How to Podcast, created for WMR.FM show hosts, and much, much more. And best of all, you'll start seeing results with the DFY podcast system within a couple of weeks. You're just one podcast away from growing brand awareness and engagement in your business. Log on to podcast.wmr.fm and sign up for a deeply discounted rate today. That's podcast.wmr.fm.
Do you look at the task of ranking your site at the top of the search engines like you would climbing the top of Mount Everest? It doesn't have to be. TopSEOs.com knows how hard that climb can be, and they can make top ranking a reality. Top SEOs sends you to only the right search vendors and agencies that they know will work for you. Since 2002, TopSEOs.com has reviewed and researched the best search engine marketing agencies and solutions providers. Don't risk the cost of falling off the proverbial peak of search rankings. Let Top SEOs give you peace of mind. TopSEOs.com, the independent authority on search vendors.
You are experiencing the Entrepreneur Effect, only on webmasterradio.fm. Here's Dush Ramachandran.
Welcome back. This is Dush Ramachandran with Entrepreneur Effect. My guest today is Sheila Mac, the author of the new book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps. So Sheila, before the break, we were talking about affirmations and how they help to rewire the brain and take us to a more happy place, to a place full of gratitude. And, the interesting thing, I've read a lot about, retraining neuroplasticity and so on. And the very interesting thing about the human brain is we cannot hold two contradictory thoughts in our brain at the same time. It's just impossible. So you can't be grateful for something and at the same time be in a complaining mood. You can't say, oh, I'm so grateful for all the blessings I have in my life. I have a beautiful home, I have food to eat, I have shelter, and I have nice clothes to wear. And at the same time, gosh, it sucks because I didn't get that one deal, or this virus is really getting us down, business is slowing down, etc. You can't hold two competing thoughts in your brain at the same time. So, which is why affirmations make such a powerful difference. And thank you for highlighting that. Now, the book is available wherever books are sold.
Yes. And it can be, you can go to my website, sheilamac.com, SHEILAMAC.com, and there's tons of free resources there as well, free videos and talks. So that's a great place to get started.
Now, and you also work with clients, don't you?
Yes.
And if any of our listeners, many of whom, in fact, almost all of whom are business owners and entrepreneurs, ranging from solopreneurs to people that have companies that do, between $5 and $10 million of revenue. If they wanted to reach out to you and kind of work with you in some way or understand how you might be able to help them, what's the best way for them to engage with you?
So if they go to sheilamac.com, there's a contact us form. There's also power team meetings that I'm able to do working with the group to keep people in a positive state. And so, and lots of free resources there.
Wonderful. And this has been an absolute pleasure. Now, you did mention before we got started that you had a surprise for our listeners. So now would be a good time to talk about that.
Yes, so I have a bonus gift for anybody listening that needs to reboot, whether it's in your business or life, and go to sheilamac.com/careers. And that will help you as a business leader or in your career if you need to reboot and change your career model. And so that's sheilamac.com/careers. And you can choose from a list other than careers, a list of topics that may be something that's affecting you now. And I'll send over some free resources that will help you get back on track this year.
Wonderful. That is such a generous gift, Sheila. Thank you so much for that. So that is sheilamac.com, SHEILAMAC.com /careers. Is that correct?
Yes.
Wonderful. Sheila, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute delight. And, I know this book is going to be an absolute bestseller because it's so timely and so valuable. So when it does hit the bestseller list.
It has been. It got there the second day, so it definitely is a matter of timing, and it is very on point. So it's gotten to some of the bestseller lists already.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
Thank you so much. Yes,
that's wonderful. Well, when you get to the next big milestone, which may be 1 million copies sold. Please come back and see us. Would love to have you on again to talk about new things you're thinking of and developing. We'd love to share that with our audience.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheila. Take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
The opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests and hosts and do not necessarily reflect those of webmasterradio.fm's management or sponsors. Any rebroadcast or redistribution without authorized consent of webmasterradio.fm is prohibited.